Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome to a map preview of a new map, Northwest, that will be coming in 8.9. This is an absolutely beautiful map. There are opportunities for every tank type. I think this is one of the most exciting maps that has gone into the game, and I really like the look of it. But you be the judge for yourself. I've been on the 8.9 test server to get you footage of this new map. And hopefully I'm going to be able to give you a good show around and voice a bit of my opinion on what I think is really going to happen, even though I've only managed to play one game with this map on the test server. So immediately you can see that there are opportunities to shoot into the cap on the green base. If I just zoom out a little bit there, you can see that the cap actually doesn't have any hard cover. There's no hard cover in the cap. Unlike, for example, Comorin, which they just re-rendered. And there are opportunities on these ridge lines to be able to go hull down and shoot down into the cap to defend, or even hide behind these buildings and shoot back into the cap to interrupt defenders. Now there are bridges like this. Apart from the very small pillars, you're not really going to get much cover on these bridges. You watch out going up there. But as you can see, Wargaming have put in gentle slopes down either side of the bridge, which you can use to escape off if you're coming under some fire. But once you're really on the bridge, you're more or less on there, so that might be a good opportunity for an ambush. Now you see me testing out if it's possible to be able to go up the slope on the other side, which evidently we can see that it is not. I'm playing in the Type 64. This is the new Tier 6 Chinese premium light tank. It's a lot of fun. I've done a full review on it, so I suggest checking that out. So here we can see that one thing that's common on all the maps is that there are different levels. So here we've got the upper ground and the lower ground. And there are quite a few opportunities where you get to switch, as you can see on the map. It might not seem obvious on the map, but that is sort of a level change where you can use to go up the slope. Now we can see there's a very prominent railroad ridge line here. If you stay to the west of it, you're going to be very safe from fire from the east. And one thing that's important is that the green team, when they're advancing along the north, is going to likely to want to stay behind this ridge line. And now, wow, we've reached what looks to be a deposit for mining. And I just love these rocks that they've been putting in here. It gives lots of opportunities to be able to defend yourself against the enemies and take hard cover. Now I'm just going to show you that not much of this is destructible. Now I would have thought that this little building here would have been destructible, but no, it's not, and you can't destroy those pillars either. So you're not sneaking through there, but you can shoot through. So you're going to be able to outplay stupid enemies who don't realize that there are shots through there, and be able to take shots at them as they progress. We can see that the track here is destructible, so don't expect to be able to drive up and get some ridiculous positioning on top of the tracks. Again, the strangest buildings aren't destructible. You'd think that this building would have been destructible, but it isn't. That's something that you're going to have to learn on this new map. Quite a few of the buildings you're just going to have to learn which are destructible and which are not. As we can see, I'm trying to get myself as stuck as possible. There is a way to at least get into this little alcove, although it really, there's absolutely no benefit to going in there really. But yeah, the bottom line really of this location is there's lots of opportunities to shoot through, to own your opponents. There's hard cover, there's not really any soft cover, and this really is going to be a choke point. This area that you see here on the map is really going to be a choke point in the game. Each team has got hard cover as they progress. The team that spawns from green that are trying to go north are going to have to use these buildings to make their approach concealed from the enemy. And there are just wonderful locations like this rock. I can imagine this being a very good hold down location. As you can see, the way that the angle comes out there, you're going to be able to shove your turret over if you're an American tank. And just pausing the game here for a second. Now this is the part where I really think this is the open kill zone, the path on the north. Maybe you'll have medium tanks trying to rush behind here to be able to lock people down. You might find that tanks such as an IS-7 come here and try and hide their lower plate and shoot over the ridge. This is going to be a serious choke point on the map. And I think that being able to cross here is going to... You're going to lose a lot of health, or at least a few tanks, as you try and make this crossing. One thing that might be interesting is that aggressive medium tanks might be able to progress the situation and avoid the initial attack from the slower tank destroyers and TDs. And just like corners like this that you see me outlining here, this is going to be a perfect opportunity to get your American tank with a turret and just peek over here and really decimate the enemy. Really, the scale of the map also means that the medium tanks have a huge amount of flexibility here. As we can see, the rocks provide sporadic cover. Like, for example, I would be able to get shot here, but I would be safe here. So you're going to have to basically, when you're sniping in on these locations, this is going to be very tricky because you're going to be shooting through the trees, and everyone knows that you can't see through the trees, so you can't see the outlines of rocks behind the trees. And so speed might be of the essence along this path on the north of the map. There are lots of lovely opportunities to go hold down all over the map. And, oh god, this is where it's going to open up again. I think that this is going to be a very strong position for both defending the red base. Let's say that you're on the red team, and say you were attacking along the north and the enemy are camping here and you've been flanked and they're rushing into your base to cap. Well, just double back along this north ridge, fairly safe. Get in on this corner, and wow, is that the perfect opportunity to just shoot everyone inside the cap circle or not, you know. Get on this ridge, provide you with cover for most of your tank, hopefully use your strong frontal armor and your turret to be able to interrupt the cap and save the game. I really like how open both the caps are. I feel that the red base's cap is probably more open than the green base's, but it doesn't make a big difference really. Just testing to see if any of these rocks are traversable. And again, lots of opportunities here to go and hide behind there and shoot into the cap as well. Now, the approach that I would take if I was attacking from the north from the green base is I would have gone along here and then I'd probably dip down, because you're going to get shot at from all of the guys who are camping behind these buildings and maybe the people who have decided to camp behind these ridge lines as well. This rock might be a lifesaver, and you can progress down underneath their gun line. And you can see just how good medium and light tanks are going to be on this map, able to flank around, really able to use their speed. I'm really liking the look of this map. This cap circle is going to be an interesting fight. It's going to be quite hard to cap it. The only way you're really going to be able to cap this circle is if the enemy are nowhere near their base. And there's lots of hard cover here to hide behind when you're defending and avoid their artillery. Going to be quite hard to dig some tanks out from locations such as this. More hills here, as you can see. Some buildings are destructible, as I'm clearly showing here. You're just going to have to learn that on this map. Which ones are hard cover and which ones are soft cover. So some very interesting positions here, able to flank down and around. Maybe you'll just use this if you were trying to escape. Once you've come down this slope, evidently there's no way back up. You'd have to go around this sort of area here and back up to go and drop down here. But it's really interesting that imagine if you were sitting up there and shooting down at the enemies as they approach. And that's quite a viable option in my opinion. To be chilling up there, shooting down on these enemies as they approach. And then once they reach here and your shots are no longer effective, maybe drop down and flank them. This map is really going to be all about free-flowing movement in my opinion, but there will be some strong camping positions as well. However, I think that there's more than enough cover to be able to deal with people who try and lock down strategic positions, and it's more of a rolling advance. There we go, demonstrating just the soft cover on some of the buildings again. And one of the interesting parts about this map, because what I just showed there is just how long and straight this road is. Imagine a tank destroyer camping behind this rock, side scrapes out, boom, back in. That's a very long, narrow pass. And if you don't have artillery, it's going to be very hard to dig out a tank destroyer who, say, stays down in this dip and comes up and shoots and then pulls back in the dip again. There's also very few opportunities along this lower road to change. But as you can see, the upper road can use these kind of opportunities to jump down and join the lower road. Now what is important about this is, as you can see, the map is basically a path along the north, a lower path along the north, a fight in the middle, a lower path along the south, and an upper lower path along the south. Now one thing that's interesting is that if you take the low road, for example here, you're going to have to deal with enemies who might be above you. And the same goes for the lower route as well. If you take the southernmost road, then you're going to have to deal with enemies who are above you, who can take opportunities to jump down and flank you, whereas you're really saying, I'm just going along this road. There's no way for you to say, oh, I want to go up on the slope again above you. And that can be quite game-changing on this map. Just to show you just the openness here of some of the approaches. Absolutely beautiful map this is. I think Wargaming have done a stunning job with the decals on this map. And here's that part where I was showing you that you can sneak on. And I'm just highlighting here really that if you take the mid-road, so to say, there are lots of opportunities for you to go down onto the southern part. But there are no opportunities for the southern part to come up to you. However, people who do take the south road might have to deal with some pressure that could come from the town area. Here we can see another location where the southern road can be ambushed from the upper road. So these rails are destructible. And that's quite an interesting location here. This is a way for you to be able to enter what I call this town in the middle. The sort of... I guess this is more or less the... Well, yeah, I'll just call it a town in the middle. It's more of an industrial area, but... This sort of square in the middle is where sort of, I think the heavies will gravitate towards. Or any tanks will really fight it out in the middle. I think the people who like to fight it out in the middle are people who like the mid to short range engagements. And then the people who take the routes along the north, along the middle, along the southern two passes are going to be the medium tanks and maybe some of the camping tank destroyers. So here we can see the bushes are fairly sporadic on this map. There aren't that many good bushes. But I'm sure when we come to the live server and we learn the kind of routes that people take, then we're going to be able to figure out what kind of positions are best to hold with the bushes. So right now I'm just going to pause. I'm going to make the map a little bigger and I'm just going to highlight what I really think about this. There's a central town area basically, and that's where anyone will really go there. Some medium tanks will go there. Basically, some people are more inclined to go into the town and some people are more inclined to use the free-flowing linear passes. That's a bit of an oxymoron, really, saying a free-flowing linear pass, but it's just the way it's going to be. So some people will go into the town, and then there are 4 routes. There's the upper road, the lower upper road, the southern upper road, and the lower southern road. Now, I've highlighted that people will be able to make moves down on the lower roads, but the lower roads are literally not going to be able to attack the upper roads. I don't really feel that there's any advantage to using this route. I really feel that maybe you'll just have a few tanks holding it, and I don't think the fight will be advanced here. I think that these buildings along here, and the mid-road will be easier. But I guess the mid-road has the issue of people in the town maybe branching off to try and ambush you, whereas the lower road really won't have the people in the town being as ready and easy to come and make a branching attack onto you. With the upper road, we've clearly found that there's a huge choke point here, and there'll be lots of shooting at each other to try and gain control of probably the rail and the group of buildings that are up here. I think basically we're going to see teams flanking along here, and urban combat, so to say, occurring in the center of the map. I think this is definitely one of the most exciting maps that Wargaming have put in. It's beautiful. There's opportunities for every tank type. Literally for every tank type. I personally feel that medium tanks are going to have the flexibility to work on this map. This is probably going to be more of a map for a bat chat than it is, for example, than an FV4202. The FV4202 might be struggling with its 40km/h top speed limit, whereas a bat chat might be able to go breakneck speed and outmaneuver the enemies and withdraw when they find that people are camping. Anyway, guys, that's all I want to say about Northwest. Now we're going to take a look at a new encounter game mode. So that's right, the new encounter will be on Erlenburg, which, hats off to you Wargaming. This was the map that the standard game mode is really boring, encourages camping. It's probably one of the worst maps in the game on standard, a lot like Redshire. I'm not sure what you guys think, but Redshire on standard is boring as hell, but as soon as you add the encounter game mode, it's very exciting. I think exactly the same has been achieved with Erlenburg. On the standard game mode, this map definitely encourages camping, and it becomes a standoff where one team camps along the river and then waits for the other team to try and advance over the river and gets destroyed. I'm not saying that happens every time, but I'm saying that probably happens more often than not, and that's what will make a map unbalanced and boring to play. However, the encounter on Erlenburg, as you can see immediately, the cap circle is gigantic. I'm not sure if we've ever seen a cap circle this big, but maybe I am incorrect. I think this might be the biggest cap circle for an encounter in World of Tanks, but maybe I'm wrong. As you can see, it stretches over both sides of the river, so players will be able to take defensive locations behind each of the building to contest the cap. And what's going to happen is that tanks will have to contest the cap because, I don't know, predominantly a lot of players are drawn towards capping. And it's lovely that there's going to be opportunities to hide behind buildings and to duke it out in the town area. Now, what's probably more interesting, and none of the rest of Erlenburg has really changed, so I'm just going to pause the game here, increase the map size, and talk it over. Now, looking at the encounter, the spawn locations have completely changed. Previously, this base would spawn here, and this base would spawn here and here. Now, the main difference about spawning here compared to here is that you're on a different side of the river. And also, you're further away from this location. Now, if you've watched my live streams and videos, you'll notice that I love to just push over the river immediately and try and take up a stronghold on the enemy's side of the river. However, I do that to really just try and make the game interesting, otherwise Erlenburg turns into one of the campiest, horrible maps that you can play in World of Tanks. However, now because the people who spawn here have been moved over here, and the people who spawn here have been moved over here, so the option is, okay, I'm just going to cross over the river and turn it into a regular game, or I'm encouraged to go over to what used to be the opposite side for the base that would spawn here, and then progress. What I think is going to happen is that some of the people from Green Base will progress along these buildings and camp here, contesting the cap. Some of the people from the Red Base will progress along here and camp at these buildings. A few of them, I think the majority will then go up and attack along here, and the majority of the Greens will go and attack along here. Now, what we've got to hope is that some people are going to realize, oh God, then that's just going to be Erlenburg all over again, rinsed and repeated, like the standard game mode. Hopefully, people will take the fact that they've not spawned so deeply on the opposite side. So, for example, people used to spawn all the way back here, and it was very hard to progress all the way over to the opposite side of the map. However, now, because you're closer, it's not too hard to be able to get over the map. And because the enemy spawns so far back and not so deep, it's harder for them to also be able to get down here as well. So hopefully, enough of your forces will cross the river and progress up here, and it's going to turn into a fight along this flank. A fight along this flank where hopefully equal numbers of tanks have gone here and here, and maybe one or two have gone to contest the cap. People who contest the cap will be getting shot down on from the hills, from this side, from the green base. So the red people who are contesting the cap will get shot down on from the green and from the green here. And people who contest the cap from the green base will get shot down on from here and the occasional bit of shooting from here. I think Erlenburg has basically been completely turned around based on the locations of the bases. And that now we're going to see a fight for the west, a fight for the east, and a few cappers interrupting the cap in the middle. I think this is very exciting because on the regular game of Erlenburg, it is usually the team who progresses onto the enemy side and takes this location here or this location here and then advance along it that wins the game. Consequently, on the encounter mode of Erlenburg, I think it's just going to be almost a let's kill them all kind of game. And I really don't think that these kind of games are going to end much in capping just because of the size of the circle. you're always going to have just one person who can progress down and get into the cap circle just because of how large it is. Anyway, guys, that was my preview for all of the new coming maps and the changes in 8.9. I hope you've enjoyed. If this has been useful to you, please consider rating the video down below. I'd really appreciate it. And tell me what you think about the new map, Northwest, and also what you think about this encounter on Erlenburg. Do you agree with me that Erlenburg will be a lot better with the encounter rather than the standard? And maybe you agree with me that maybe they should take out the Redshire standard and the Erlenburg standard and just leave the encounters in. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Think about checking out some of my other 8.9 videos if you're interested. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.